and welcome again to Cryptic Tales. I am your host, Lady Victoria Gray, and tonight's story I will be reading you is The Midnight Stranger. Pulling up to the graveyard gates, Craig's car slowed as he looked over into the seat next to him, checking if he had everything for the night. The job was simple. All he had to do was watch over the grounds after hours and make sure no one was sneaking in during the night. The caretaker himself, Mr. Grove, had put the ad in the paper but just a month ago. Only Craig was crazy enough to take the job. Opening the gates, Craig drove onto the road in the grounds. The graveyard itself did have a haunting feeling to it, but he didn't seem to mind at all. It was an odd place to live, but Craig knew Mr. Grove was not bothered by the rumors that had been the talk of the town for years now. Some say the death of his wife was not an accident. In fact, he killed her due to his secret life. Whether Craig chose to believe it or not was a different story altogether. He had spent a lot of time with the old man since the start of the night job, but he seemed to be so kind. But it did make him wonder why he never left the graveyard, even during the day. People would drop off his food and packages to him at the front gates. He pulled up to Mr. Grove's home on the hill overlooking the ground as he parked and grabbed his stuff from the seat. "Hello, Craig." Nearly jumping, he noticed the front light of the house on and the old man himself standing in his doorway. "Good evening, Mr. Grove," he yelled back, waving. The old man half waved, but he just went back to waiting at the door. Craig did admit it was creepy to see him just standing there, looking at him. But who was he to judge? The old man did pay him, after all, to watch over the grounds at night. He and the old man talked for a little while before Craig started his shift. He was not sure what to think about Mr. Groves, but he knew some of the stuff said maybe had some truth to it. But soon he told the old man good night and started his shift as he started for the grounds. From what he told Groves, from what he had been told, the Groves had been the caretakers of this graveyard for a long time, in fact. But now Mr. Groves was alone after his wife died. A few hours went by, and nothing. Craig knew it was just another night on the job. No one dared to step grounds on the graveyard because of the old man. Feeling a little hungry, Craig pulled out a sandwich from the backpack he had on his back and took a bite, looking around before he noticed an odd figure standing near a grave. From first looks, she seemed like an older woman dressed in black. He couldn't see her face, but she was looking down at a grave, almost lost. "Hello?" Craig called as he slowly walked towards her. The old woman didn't seem to move, or even turn, as she just kept looking down at the grave. Upon a closer look, her dress looked dirty and torn. He was worried she could be hurt. "Are you okay?" he cried again. But he started to feel a bit uneasy as he got closer to the woman. "Don't trust him," she finally said, still looking down at the grave. Craig was confused. Who was she talking about? "Did someone hurt you?" he asked after some time. "Get out while you can, before he gets you," she cried, making Craig jump back. His heart was pounding and his whole body started to shake. He didn't know what to do. She looked like someone beat her from what he could see of her. "Let me help you to the gate," he said, swallowing his fear, grabbing her shoulder. "Get out," while you can, or you'll end up like me, she screamed as she whipped around to face him. Her face and dress was covered in blood from the stab wounds that had shown. Craig bolted to the old man's house and banged loudly on the door. Mr. Grove opened the door, looking a bit upset, then changed when he noticed how pale Craig looked. "What's wrong?" he said, helping Craig into the house. After a while, Craig awoke to the old man shaking his shoulders. "You gave me a scare." Craig slowly sat up, looking around, before noticing a picture that hung on the wall. "Who is that?" he asked almost in a nervous tone. The old man looked over at the picture. "That's my wife." Craig felt his heart drop down into his chest. The woman and the words she spoke rung in his ears. After that day, he quit and never came back. She must be his saving grace, because in the recent papers, he had heard the headline, "Bodies found in the Grove home, and many more an unmarked grave."